Hello, I'm Walter Mobley, a proud member of the Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and one of the assistant chaplains in that great chapter. I've been asked to give a little brief discussion about the East St. Louis riot of 1917. Now, 1917 may not stand out great in the minds of many of us, but in the annals of African American history, it is. And let me tell you why. Because of employment opportunities in the wartime industry, between 10,000 and 12,000 African American people left the South, the Jim Crow South, for East St. Louis, Illinois. In the 1916 and 1917, they were part of the Great Migration. Many white citizens of East St. Louis were disturbed by this movement and, naturally, by the increase of employment of Black people in the city's industrial plants. Typically, there was a rumor spread about that a white man had been killed by a Black man, and tensions began to boil over. The next day, the city of East St. Louis exploded in the worst racial rioting the country has ever seen. Most of the violence targeted the African American community. The riots raged for nearly a week, leaving 9 whites and hundreds of African Americans dead. More than 6,000 Black citizens feared for their lives and fled the city. This happened just shortly after America entered into World War I. It's ironic that you have, as Winston James says, Black troops going off to fight to make the world safe for democracy in April of that year. And in July, you have Black people being murdered in the most barbaric manner in East St. Louis. Can you believe this? My brothers, children were thrown back into flaming houses where people were boarded up in their houses as white men torched them so that they couldn't escape. This horror is the most worst. Marcus Garvey said that millions of our people in slavery gave their lives that America might live. He went on to say, from the labors of these people, the country grew in power until her world wealth was computed above that of any two nations. Now, let's be real. Riots and cultural wars are not new. There have been clashes between men since Cain slew his brother Abel. Man has an insatiable desire to dominate, control, and possibly eradicate another group of people, a tribe, a race, a culture. Even today, you hear degrading rhetoric and words spoken by the 47th president of the United States who said, get rid of the criminals, the rapists, the thugs, monsters, vermin, bloodsuckers, and animals, and so forth. Our fraternity brother, the late great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said in his sermon, Discerning the Signs of History, we are in danger of destroying ourselves and destroying the world if we are to discern the signs of the time in which we live. We must understand the basic truth that evil carries the seed of its own destruction. If you see evil riding high, he said, do not worry. One day it will be cut down. Jesus said in John 16:33, in this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. There's an uncomfortable truth about what Jesus says. He gives us a warning. Jesus is preparing his disciples to expect persecution. The world shows disdain for those who follow God. The world sought to silence their voices because man did not want to hear what thus saith the Lord. Look at Jeremiah, Isaiah, Amos, Elijah, and Jesus himself. You can also look at more recent prophets, Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, and so forth. As Jesus prepares his disciples of the challenges they will experience, he is saying it's not going to be easy. Even though this is an uncomfortable truth, there is a sobering solution. In that same verse, he used the word but. But is a conjunction used to introduce a phrase or contrasting thought to what has already been mentioned. Similar words are nevertheless, nonetheless, even so, and however. But is used to indicate the possibility that something different is about to take place. In this case, something better. Jesus used the word but to introduce the fact that we can have good cheer. Good cheer derived from the Greek word tharsos or therio, which is a verb that means to have courage or confidence. And there's a reason why we can have courage and confidence, because Jesus says, I've overcome the world. Therefore, trust in God. We can also look to Jesus. So don't give up hope. Don't be in despair. Don't be depressed. Don't be sad. Don't worry. You can have good cheer. Be courageous in whatever you do. Be confident in your abilities. Be undaunted by the naysayers. Be filled with joy. God is still in control. And God is still in charge. God is still victorious. God still hears and answers prayer. God bless you, my brothers.